25 years have gone by this century, so it's time to make our quarter-century MSU athlete Mount Rushmore, where one guy just ran away with his spot, and the other three is actually up for grabs.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for tuning in to Locked On Spartans. It's your team in green and white right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Please rate, review, subscribe, comment below your thoughts on Jase Richardson landing at Orlando to start his NBA career because, hey, it's going to be a little bit of a crossover in segments 2 and 3. We sit down with Locked On Magic, or rather I sat down with them. That's probably the more formal way of putting it. But regardless, we talk back and forth about Jase's fit on the Magic, what he did here at Michigan State, what can help him, maybe hurt him in the NBA. So great conversation with Philip Rossman-Reich of Locked On Magic. But guys, first and foremost, we are a quarter of the way done with this century. So, hey, who's going to make the Mount Rushmore of Michigan State athletes? Now, I want to make that very clear. Athletes, okay? A week ago, I started this little Google form. Hopefully you got your vote in. A little less than 800 people got their votes in, so thank you all very much for anyone that participated here. We wanted to do athletes because if we open it up to just Michigan State, including coaches, I think it would have been a little too obvious to have Izzo on there, and equally as obvious to have Mark D'Antonio on there. That's 2 of your 4 heads already taken. I wanted at least a little bit of variance, a little bit of drama going into this thing. So let's just get it started with who caused the least amount of drama, because of the 4 guys, 3 of which, hey, are basketball. And then the other guy, well, is a football. There was no hockey surprises here, although there was one hockey player that did get a fair share of votes. The guy that really caused no drama whatsoever ran away with this thing, getting 78.3% of the votes from you beautiful people, Cassius Winston. Yes, he has cemented himself on the quarter-century MSU athlete Mount Rushmore. And I got to say, even 78.3%, that's high. That was by far the highest amount. The next closest guy was 25% behind him. It still seems a little low, right? Like Cassius Winston, just such a lovable player for Michigan State. He delivered a Final Four, 3 straight Big Ten titles, the Big Ten all-time assist leader. And also, I think it hurts to think about, but I think it helps his legacy, is just the mystique of what would have happened that last year should the NCAA tournament have played out. They were rolling hot into March, just like they did his junior season. Hey, I know a lot of us out there thinks that nothing was going to stop that team. Not even the Boston Celtics could have slowed them down. But hey, you know what? Without the tournament, you don't get the maybe, perhaps, surprise upset. You always just get the what if. So he already had a cemented legacy even before that. But just the fact that it ended in that manner, I think only makes the Cassius Winston fanfare even higher. The second guy on this list, the second highest vote getter, and it was pretty tight between guy 2 and 3. Now, 2, maybe there's controversy around this. I don't know. I heard opinions from both sides of the aisle here of when a century officially starts. Some of you guys said that a century doesn't start until 2001. Some of you said, no, it actually does start in the year of our Lord 2000. And hey, even though he only played 3-ish, bordering on 4 months, in 2000, it is Mateen Cleaves getting 53.9% of the vote from you wonderful voters. Now, again, this is a little bit wonky here because you only played 3 months in this quarter century, right? But I would say that they were a pretty productive 3 months. He cemented himself as a 3-time All-American, became the Big Ten assist leader until, of course, Cassius Winston broke that. He's still the MSU leader in steals. And then, oh, yeah, that's right. How about that national championship that he delivered here to Michigan State, especially coming back from that injury against Florida? Gritty, tough, Spartan dog stuff right there. Hey, it's one thing to win a national title. The fan base is already going to love you. But to grit one out like that on a bum tire, okay, yeah, you're going to be a Michigan State lore forever. Now, right behind him, at 52% of the vote, we are talking Draymond Green. That's right in the middle of 2025 and the start of this century, or millennium, I guess you could say. doing so much work in that 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011 range right there. Of course, we're talking Final Fours. Maybe should have gone to a national title game if a foul that was committed on him was actually called, but we're not going to get hung up on that. We're trying to be a joyous podcast today. But yeah, Big Ten Player of the Year, defensive mastermind, and above all, when you think Spartan Dog, when you think leaders of great Michigan State teams, it always starts with Draymond Green. He is still talked about, guys, right? Like even in the last few years, but when things weren't going so well for Michigan State basketball, who was always incited in conversations? It was Draymond Green. Everyone's saying, oh, this team needs a Draymond. They need a tough guy. They need someone that's not going to put up with SHI blank. This is a family show. He embodied everything that it meant to be a Spartan. So that is your 1 through 3 guys, all basketball. And it got a little tight for the 4th. And I got to say, I really thought my guy Kirk Cousins was going to be the 4th guy, but nope, of course, it is Connor Cook getting 44.5% of the vote from you folks out there. 2-time Big Ten championship game MVP, Rose Bowl MVP, just cool, cocky, but you know what? When you're that arrogant and can back it up the way he did, that's just going to make a fan base love you even more. He was a tough player, always lowering his shoulder on runs, would never give up the ball on these option runs. He was just electric to watch, but also, I mean, it was a symbol of the golden era of Michigan State football. Now, guys, the others that got at least 30% of the vote here, there was only 2 other guys. It was my guy Kirk Cousins, who was right behind Connor Cook, and then Kenneth Walker. Even just 1 year here, but it happened recently enough, and he did so much damage in that 1 year that he was also a top 6 vote getter, getting over 30% of the vote. And I heard this from a few people, and hey, you should do a basketball-only Mount Rushmore and a football-only Mount Rushmore. If we went that route, just based on how the voting went, this is what your basketball-only Mount Rushmore would have looked like. Cassius Winston, Mateen Cleaves, Draymond Green, obviously. But the 4th guy, also a National Player of the Year, Denzel Valentine. So that would be the 4th guy on your Mount Rushmore basketball heads for the quarter century right there. And then if you did football only, you're only looking at the offensive side of the ball, which I think in a weird way speaks to how good the defense has been for Michigan State time and time again in this quarter century, because there was just too many guys on defense where it got so diluted. And of course, offensive players, you know, they're more household names. It's sexier to be a quarterback than it is to be a defensive lineman, for example. But here's your football-only Mount Rushmore. It is Connor Cook. It's Kirk Cousins, Kenneth Walker, and then Le'Veon Bell is your 4th guy, the guy who totaled, 8,372 carries in the year 2012 alone. That's not to say that it was only a 2-sport race the entire time. Ryan Miller actually got 8.2% of the vote, which doesn't really seem like a lot. But that was enough to get just inside of the top 15 for athletes getting these votes. Now, he got more votes than Darquez Dennard, Caleb Lucas, Mike Sadler. And that's what happens when you get 26 shutouts, a 94.1 save percentage, only 1 of 3 Spartans to win the Hobie Baker, and then just 1 of 3 goalies to win the Hobie Baker in general. So Ryan Miller, yes, he got love too, just like Isaac Howard got a little bit of votes. Justin Abelkader, I think he got a baker's dozen votes. So look, once it dropped off from Kenneth Walker, I mean, it was just a wide net of guys that got anywhere from 3 to 8% of the votes. But such is life when you're here at Michigan State, and there are a lot of great athletes that play in your quarter century. So the biggest surprises that I got is that I was a little surprised that there wasn't more love for Denzel Valentine. And this is maybe what I talk about with the mystique of not knowing what would have happened in that last run for Cassius Winston, is that we know what happened in that senior year tournament for Denzel Valentine against Middle Tennessee State. And despite reaching the Final Four the year earlier, despite being National Player of the Year, unfortunately, fair or not fair, that's just how it could define a legacy, just even a little bit, just that one loss in a tournament where the other team's shooting 1,000% from 3. You know what? Maybe that's what has him a little buried in some Michigan State fans' mind. And Caleb Lucas getting just 3% of the votes. Oh, I was going to chalk that one up to just me being too old, nostalgic. We're in this spot where he played 15 years ago. And while I was coming into my freshman year when he was finishing his career at Michigan State, I got to come to terms that I'm a dinosaur. And 15 years ago is actually a long time. And maybe a lot of you who voted didn't even get to see him play live. Oh, that pains me to say out loud. Anyway, you guys don't care about this whatsoever, but here's what my Mount Rushmore would have been. It's hard to argue against Cassius Winston. I'm not going to do it. Draymond Green, not going to argue against him either. I absolutely love both of those guys. I'm going to put Connor Cook on this Mount Rushmore. And yes, guys, if you know me, Kirk Cousins isn't just my all-time favorite Spartan. He's my all-time favorite athlete. What he meant. No, did he deliver a national title? And no, that's what makes me a little sick, leaving my teen cleaves off. But just to where I am as a fan, you know, this is late high school, early college, but enough about my life. Let's talk about what he meant for Michigan State. He brought this program back with guys like Mark D'Antonio, great defensive players like Greg Jones. It took a team to get this ship steered in the right direction, but he was part of that crew that got this program shifted in the right direction so that Rose Bowl era team can take the baton and go forward with it and finally smell those roses. So, yeah, Kirk Cousins, I think, was a great leader, great player, undefeated against Michigan, too. So that's who my Mount Rushmore would have been. If you don't agree, if you got your own Mount Rushmore, comment below right now on YouTube or hit us up, lockedonspartans@gmail.com. All right, guys, we're going to get to talking with our guys over at Locked On Magic. But first, we need to talk everyone's ears off about Gametime. That's right, the greatest ticketing app out there because let's say it's a nice, sunny summer day in Detroit. You don't have tickets for the Tigers game, but you want to go because it's the best team in baseball, so you might as well. But first pitch is in 15 minutes. Surely it's too late to get a good deal on tickets. Ron, yes, they have their flash deals where even days in advance you can go get some great savings on great seats, okay? But the last-minute ticket deals are also outstanding over at Gametime. And my favorite part about Gametime, yes, it's saving money, of course. If you know me, you know I like to save $1 here or there. But also just how simple this app is. You open it, you're going to get a real picture of your seats, 2 taps, that's how much it takes to buy them, and they're sent straight to your phone. You're not going to tap your screen 37 times and then be surprised with $60 fees at the very end. No, guys, this is a reasonable and simple to use ticketing app. So what are you waiting for? Download the Gametime app. Use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the Gametime app today. Redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. What time is it? It's Gametime.
And this is Philip Rossman-Reich, the host of Locked On Magic for those listening on Locked On Spartans, joined by the host of Locked On Spartans, Matt Sheehan. Go green, go white. Magic fans are now officially, I don't know, are we officially Michigan State fans now with all the Michigan players on the rosters? We just assume we're always taking the Michigan guys, so I'm glad we're diversifying a little bit to the better program in the state.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Because there's very few things that us, Spartan fans, Wolverine fans bond over. It's the Detroit Lions, Detroit Tigers, of course, but now it's the Orlando Magic because it's not just Jase who we're going to talk about, but Gary Harris had a nice little stint there. Yeah. So, yeah, there's a little melting pot of just hatred down there in sunny Orlando, which I like. So, yeah, I'm a Magic fan. Of course I am.
Look, Gary got himself into a little bit of trouble in the fall last year in the locker room. I think he fared a little bit better in the winter. So I don't think there was too much animosity. He's a little outnumbered, unfortunately, in that locker room, or he was outnumbered in that locker room. So I don't think he could cause so many waves, and there's just so many Duke guys there. It's everyone just rallied against them. Yeah. But we're here to talk about Jase Richardson, the number 25 pick in the NBA draft, someone that I think the Orlando Magic are really, really excited and happy to be there. Someone who, as you mentioned in the short that I aired on draft night, and I'm sure you talk about plenty on your podcast, a player who really does have lottery level talent. I will admit I am a Big Ten guy. I'm a Northwestern alum. Typically how I consume college basketball is when they play Northwestern, I get a sense of who they are. And I have to admit, I blacked out that Michigan State game, I think for good reason on my part. So for those of us who have never seen Jase Richardson play, what is the best way to describe his play and what he brought to the Spartans this year?
Oh man, well for Spartans, a savior. I mean, I don't think he's going to actually save an NBA team season immediately in his rookie year, but oh my goodness, Michigan State doesn't have the year they have without Jase Richardson, and that might sound obvious, but not every NBA lottery talent is just ready to make an immediate impact on a game the way he did last year. In Michigan State, they won the Big Ten by 3 games. Now, if you don't have Jase Richardson, do you still win the Big Ten? Debatable, but luckily we don't have to debate because he was here and he offered 3-level scoring. And this was a Michigan State season which, as good as they were in every other facet of the game, they really had an issue scoring the three-point ball. Sometimes the offense would get a little stagnant. They always had the rebounding, the defending, the transition game, but sometimes in the half-court set, looking around being like, who's going to put this ball in the hoop right now? And sure enough, it was the spunky freshman, Jase Richardson, who, again, 3 levels. He can finish at the rim grade at 69%. His mid-range game, that lost art, which is still full and well here in East Lansing. We love ourselves a mid-range game up here. That was still great. And then 41% from 3. Oh, God, he was just a blessing to have on the court. So I've really tried to embrace the 1 year that we had, because I thought this was one of my early takes in the season that he's going to have his number in the rafters at Breslin Center one day. He's going to be that great of a 4-year player. Except one problem, he was too good, and he left after 1 year. So really appreciated what he did here in East Lansing in just 1 year for everything.
It kind of sounds like Michigan State ran the Magic's December offense, where they just didn't know how to score the basketball. But by golly, they will defend their hearts out, and you won't score either if that helps. You mentioned Jase having this three level scoring ability, and look, I mean, you look at his numbers. Obviously, like college numbers or college team dynamics are always a little bit different, but his numbers don't like pop off the page. 12.1 points per game hardly seems like a guy who's your like lead scorer and lead attacker. 41.2% 3-point shooting is awesome, but only 3.2 attempts per game. 83.6% free throw shooting, but only 3.4 attempts per game. Obviously, like his production and his play picked up toward the end of the season, especially when he entered the starting lineup. What sort of changed in him, or what aren't the numbers necessarily showing that makes him someone who can make this kind of an impact quickly?
Yeah, I think you're spot on with like the numbers don't tell the full story. And what you do have to look at is what you just kind of referenced there. Midway through the season, when he did get inserted into the starting lineup here, because I think that gave him not just the minutes, not just the shot opportunities, but also the confidence that, okay, yes, I am just a freshman. I do play Michigan State, which this year was a pretty deep team. Like we did go 9-10 deep into the bench. Everyone could be the leading scorer any given night, but him being inserted into the starting lineup kind of juxtaposed with some massive games around those times too. Like he single-handedly won us that Oregon game, which was massive. I'm sure, and it might sound
by the way, just have to remind everyone that's
true. Oh, well, of course. Oh, it's a historical Big Ten team, Oregon. Yeah. Oh, certainly. This is dyed in the wool Big Ten basketball we're talking right here. But no, it sounds cliche and corny, but I really do think that confidence gave him an extra boost to his game, where he would say certain times in the game, like, okay, that's right. This is kind of my offense now and my team now. I'm going to take over when this team is really kind of looking a little in the half-court offense. He would, take the ball under his wing and go get a bucket. I mean, I know that doesn't really sound analytical or anything, but it kind of just did seem simple as that once he was thrown into the starting lineup here. And he never did look back. Now, I do think it is worth noting, yes, he didn't really get to the free throw line a lot. So that was never really an art of his game, which certainly both NBA, college, I'm sure it's gone down to the high school and AAU ranks now. Getting to the free throw line, that is part of the beautiful game of basketball now. He didn't really necessarily make that part of his game, but certainly, as he said, when he did get to the line, 84%, I mean, he's just a nice pure shooter. So that helps.
And just to give a sense of those numbers, since I have the time to look it up here, 15 starts at the end of the season, averaged 16.1 points per game, still shot 42% from 3. 69 over 15, if I can enter that in my calculator real fast, is 4.6 attempts per game, shot 47% from the floor. So efficiency went down a little bit. You would expect that when you get more shot attempts, but you always talk about guys getting better as the season moves on, especially as they're getting ready to maybe make the leap to the NBA. This is someone who got better as season run. And as you mentioned, like Michigan State does not go as far as they do. They don't win the Big Ten like they do. They don't win in the NCAA tournament. You don't want to put all the eggs of your analysis and your scouting in the NCAA tournament, but those are pressure games.
It's important. Yep.
And to show up under pressure when all eyes are on you, that does say something. What do you think will be, obviously, I think the reason why Jase slipped to 25, and it does really feel like he slipped to 25 is because of his size and the NBA. Like, these are big athletic guys. These are guys who are, there's a 7'6" guy doing what 6'5" guys do. Like that's right. That's the reality of the NBA. What's going to be the biggest challenge for Jase as he begins to translate to the NBA?
Yeah, I mean, it really just does come all down to the size, right? Like, what did he measure in socks? I think it was like 6'1".
6'1.25" without shoes.
Yeah.
So let's say 6'3", I believe, in the program at Michigan State. He's probably like 6'1.5" with shoes.
Yeah, which, like, look, if that's me, I take that all day. I could use another 2 or 3. Who can amongst us?
I'm listed
guys, right?
I'm listed as 6'3" in the program. Like, I get it.
Oh yeah, that's right. So look, but it's funny how, like, when you're an NBA prospect, you might as well just be a Kentucky Derby jockey if you measure it at 6 feet tall. Like, oh my God, this wee little lad is going to try to play some professional basketball. So it's ridiculous, but there is something to it. You do look around the league, like you do look at the guards that take their teams deep into the playoffs. And yeah, sure, Jalen Brunson, he's not 6'8" by any means, but those are not real common. Like, that's just a kind of a rare story in this day and age of NBA basketball, is that you do need some size. As elementary as it sounds, that could knock him down a few pegs, and I do wonder what that will mean for his defense, because that was also a plus here for Michigan State, and that's what got him on the court so early. And even before our season here, the team took a trip to Spain, I believe it was, or somewhere overseas, and he was getting a lot of run against older, adult, experienced teams over there. And you get on the court here, and this is another cliche, and this is widespread amongst a lot of college basketball teams, but especially here in East Lansing, you get on the court when you play defense, and you could be an active rebounder. Like, Tom Izzo does not throw you on the court just because you're pretty good at scoring the ball. No. It starts on the other end, and he showed up ready to play some defense, which he did at an adequate to, I would say, a solidly above average level in college. Now that he's given up a few inches to pretty much every guy that he's going to see in the NBA, how much of a slip is that going to take? Philip, I really wish I was confident enough in my basketball analysis at the NBA level to have a strong takeaway, but that's where the concern's going to lie, right? Like, okay, yeah, he's going to play the 2, perhaps. Okay, the other team's 2 is going to be the 6'7" guy, maybe a 6'10" wingspan. How's that going to look on the other side? And even when he is on offense, Jase Richardson, which obviously we talked glowingly about his offensive game, very quick off the bounce in college, very rarely got into isolation basketball moments because he was so quick off the bounce. But if he's going up against a picket fence of a guy, is that going to slow his game down so much that's going to be detrimental? I don't think so. I love the kid. I saw him play for 30-plus games. I think the world of him. But once I take my green tinted glasses off, like that could be a concern, certainly at the next level.
Yeah, and I think that's where being on the Magic is going to be one of the more interesting fits, because they have the size and the defense to cover for him a little bit. We'll talk a little bit more about that fit and where Jay still needs to improve. We're going to get to that coming up here in just a moment. Once again, this is Philip Rossman-Reich, the host of Locked On Magic, joined by Matt Sheehan of Locked On Spartans to talk all things Jase Richardson as he begins the transition from green to the new shade of blue the Magic are wearing. I don't know what shade they're actually calling it, but
it's nice.
It's a nice shade. They did a great job. They did a great job with the new logo. There's no doubt about that in my mind. And Jase was, I think, the second current player to actually wear the new jersey.
Look at that. Okay.
But Desmond Bane got that on when he arrived here after the trade. Jase Richardson and Noah Penda were next. I'm still convinced that the promotional photos they sent us were photoshopped. So, and then I guess like
never.
KCP and Tristan Da Silva wore generic jerseys. I don't know if we count those. One of the first guys to wear the new Magic jersey. That's an aside. Before we talk about how Jase kind of transitions and maybe what you and I both see as his fit with this team or stuff like that, what's one area that Jase still needs? He's 18, 19 years old. He's not a finished product. He's a freshman, like you mentioned. What's one area that Jase still needs to improve upon to kind of reach his potential?
Another thing, offensively, because, he is so close. Like, he's pretty much there. If, you have any doubts in our confidence for his offensive ability, then you missed the first segment. I don't know what to tell you, but
rewind and listen to it.
Rewind and listen. We did so good, I think, that why not just give it a second go, right, Philip? But one knock that I kept reading, and I guess, hey, if the non-biased experts are saying it, if guys that actually analyze the NBA and not just a college basketball team that just kept on winning despite the shortcomings, okay, there might be a little bit of credence to it. And it is that, maybe he could use a little bit more right-handed play. For example, obviously, lefty's got the smooth left-handed stroke. Even on the right side of the hoop, you'd find a way to finagle his left hand and have that be his finishing hand, where Yeah, you probably want all four limbs to be functional at that next level. Again, certainly you heard us say the percentage numbers, whether it comes to finishing at 69% or the other twos at a high 40% clip. Like it worked at the college level, but we all know this. There's a little bit of a difference between NBA and college basketball. So could he get a little more comfortable with his right hand, whether that be driving, whether that be finishing? I think that offensively could be the next step in his game too. And can I hijack the show for a quick question here?
No,
Philip,
go for
actually?
it. Go for it.
Because
we're beginning to hand off to you asking me about his future. So
yeah, for sure. Because like I do wonder, like, what do you think his immediate role will be? Like, will he have time, or will this be a baptism by fire? He's going to play high percentage minutes with high percentage usage, or where do you see him at right now? Like sixth guy, eighth guy? Is he starting? I mean, take me away here.
So it's gonna be very, very interesting to see how the Magic use him because. While I really like the pick, but Jase Richardson goes really against the type of players the Magic typically pick. Like the Magic have, like, you look at their team, it's Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, 6'10", big ball handlers. They have Jalen Suggs, who's built like a tank.
That's right.
They added Desmond Bane, who's also kind of built like a tank. Desmond Bane goes a little against the type. We always used to joke that when it comes to the draft, you go to the draft combine page, sort everyone by wingspan, and just pick off all the guys with the longest wingspans. It is a running joke. The front office knows the joke. Everybody around the league knows the joke. And so for the Magic to draft a guy who was dinged for being small, and look, he's at the combine, he measured 6'125" without shoes, height, measured with a 6'6" wingspan. So the wingspan was a plus. If he's 6'125" with 6'3" wingspan, the Magic don't even touch him. Like, that's just not their philosophy, because a lot of their defense is about switching and being able to do multiple coverages and being able to they're very big on, you guard your yard. You guard the man in front of you. We'll switch. We're not going to get distracted by ball screens. You're going to have to guard a lot of different positions on this team. And so the fact that he, despite his size, despite any shortcomings he has, he's a willing defender. That's half the battle. That gets you in the door with this Magic team, just like it gets you on the floor with Tom Izzo. I think there's definitely a good vibe and philosophy on that. I'll say this. I don't think the Magic view him as a point guard. I know Jase is very, very eager to show that he can play point guard. And then I'll circle back and ask you a little bit about that. The Magic are doing this weird thing where they do like point guard by committee. Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, Desmond Bane have all averaged 5 assists per game or more in their careers. Jalen Suggs is the point guard in name in the starting lineup. I think he can become a better playmaker. The Magic just want guys who can do everything. Like, they're not really looking for a point guard. And as I say this, we're recording this on Monday afternoon. We don't know what the Magic have done in free agency quite yet. So talk to future me later. I think that the Magic view him as a guard they can bring off the bench that gives them some spark plug scoring. They traded Cole Anthony away in the Desmond Bane trade. I think they see Jase filling the role that Cole Anthony gave them, where he was a spark plug scorer off the bench, and they view Jase as a potentially more efficient scorer. Cole did a lot of really good things, but efficiency was not one of them. And they view him as a better defender. And Cole, again, willing defender, just didn't have the tools to be good on defense. And so I think they view Jase as a potentially like better defender in that spot. Again, I think the Magic do view him as a rotation player, and they want to give him the room to be in the rotation. And obviously injuries are going to hit. It's an 82 game season. A lot of stuff happens. I think that part of the issue is going to be, again, we're recording this on Monday afternoon. This could be completely wrong. So I'll either edit this out or Freeze and Cole take myself later. We're expecting the Magic to sign Tyus Jones or another point guard this offseason. And that, to me, does compress Jase Richardson's playing time, because you can't play Jase and Tyus together. They're both too small.
That'd be tough.
You can maybe play Jason lineups with Bane and Anthony Black. So Bane's playing the 3, Black's playing the 2. The Magic have the flexibility to find lineups that work for him. And again, maybe signing another point guard is a sign that we drafted a guy who can contribute to our team. And the Magic are trying to win. They're trying to go deeper in the playoffs. Like they've obviously signaled that with the moves they've made. But we can also still give him room to develop and make some mistakes too, in lineups that protect him and protect his weaknesses a little bit. It's hard to say exactly what his role is going to be. Again, as we're recording this Monday afternoon, I'd slot Jase Richardson as the backup point guard, playing alongside Anthony Black in the backcourt. Again, a guy that can cover for his defense, for any defensive shortcomings he might have. Take those bigger defenders that Richardson may not be able to defend as well. You can always play him with Suggs. You can always play him with Bain. There's always a guy back there to help him out. And then you have your backline defenders like Jonathan Isaac, Goga Batadze. Like the Magic have enough defensive cover, the second best defensive team in the league last year.
Right.
The unfortunate thing about recording this before free agency is I don't know what the roster looks like. After the dust settles. I do think the Magic want to give him a pathway to play, and that's why I'm still, again, as we're recording here Monday afternoon, a little skeptical about the Tyus Jones thing. But the Magic also need a point guard. They need an organizer. They just need to have one in reserve, and so it's hard to say. But Magic fans know this extremely well. I hinted at it when we were talking about Michigan State's offense. The Magic were the worst three-point shooting team in the league last year. They need more guys who can attack off the dribble. They need more guys who can just score, just do offensive things, do more than one offensive thing. Like Jase Richardson, to me, can be a catch and shoot guy. He can be an attacker. He can go off closeouts. He can go out in transition. Like he is someone that he is the exact kind of guard the Magic should be targeting. And so I think they'll find a way to get him on the floor, again, in certain lineups.
Excellent. I mean, because that's interesting too, because he wasn't necessarily like a full-on point guard here. I mean, we had Jeremy Fears was our number one guy, Trey Holloman our number two guy, but it's not to say that he didn't have any ball handling ability. So I do wonder, again, because you don't know if you have Tyus Jones or not, or what the other guard situation looks like. That will be interesting to see though, like if he does get any minutes as an NBA point guard this early in his career to kind of show his stuff, so to speak. But yeah, that's good to know, at least that he's got at least some time to work things out. Yes, it was baptism by fire-ish here at Michigan State, but a little harder doing that in the NBA. And that's why I was so happy it was a bummer to see him slide out of the lottery. Obviously, we want all of our Spartans to go as high as humanly possible. But once it got to like the 19s or the 20s, I remember texting my brother, like, Orlando would be a really nice spot for him right now. Like, that is a ready-to-win now team. They do have some guards around him that he can kind of learn under. It won't be a rush process. And by the way, like the Orlando Magic jersey with the Disney patch, that goes so hard. Like that's a trifecta of reasons why, maybe this is like a good place to slide, because traditionally, if you slid that far, okay, no matter what, a good team's going to take you. This is great. But now with all the trades, and the Nets having 68,000 picks, the Hornets having like a pick late, it's like, oh God, this could actually be worst case scenario of not just missing out on the lottery, but also still landing with a lottery level team, which the Magic are not these days. So that was exciting to see on draft night.
Yeah. And like that's a double-edged sword, because you land with a team like the Hornets, and obviously the Hornets have made some moves. They got LaMelo Ball, but they're a team that needs anything they can find. Like you trade winning for opportunity, and you get opportunity, you get to make mistakes, but losing sucks. Like we all know, losing sucks. Like Magic fans will tell you, losing sucks. And nothing develops a player better than actually winning. The problem is, if you're on a winning team, you do have to win. If you cannot give them something in the short term, I don't think Jase is going to play at all in the G League. I think he's too good for the G League level. Okay. But you end up, if Jase is out of the rotation and Osceola has a string of home games, and the Magic are maybe out west or wherever, maybe he gets a spot game in Osceola with Osceola Magic. Like if he needs the run, he needs the run. Like there's nothing replaces a 5-on-5 game. Right. I don't think the Magic want to do that, but finding playing time becomes more difficult because you have to contribute to winning.